hands if you stayed up until midnight waiting for Blake Lively to drop this freaking amendment. Okay, am I the only person with their hands raised? Are you guys just here to plagiarize because you know I went through every line like a complete psycho? That's perfectly fine. I just want you guys to know rather, that if you're here because you think there's some bombshell in here, as her lawyers were alluding to, oh, wait until everybody sees everything, you're gonna be sorely disappointed, because if clickbait was an amendment, this is it. Okay, I cannot believe it. And there's so much more going on here. Now we really see the target of everything, I think, really the linchpin for her lawsuit, the person that she went after. We have to discuss Isabella Ferrer.
An executive producer signed up to be an executive producer, and that's it. As the time progressed in this film, she decided that she wanted to be a producer. She started to make edits. She wanted to be part of the editing team. There were people hired, like human beings actually hired to do the editing job, who had done work as editors. She wanted to be part of that team. The next thing you know, she took over the editing. She started making threats that she wouldn't promote the movie, that she wanted to be in control of marketing of the movie, that she would do nothing in terms of promotion unless she was the actual editor.
And being frank, if it were not for women giving me direct feedback in my own personal life and being a man who was willing to at least listen to them, there's no chance that I would be having this conversation. So the message, to answer your question, the message is very simple. As men, we need to embrace all of the parts of us that make us human. That's it.
It is.
It's very simple.
I was testing for a show that ended up actually getting picked up and doing very well, and I was one of 2 people maybe, and then I get a call from my managers and my agent. They were both on the line, which means it's something serious. Either you got the job or there's something wrong. And they said, so you were the choice, but the network said that your eyebrows would be too distracting.
Oh, what?
Oh no.
And then they went like, so what can we do about your eyebrows?
In some ways, it protected me. And spirituality was a big part of that. I took it seriously. I really believed that if I was gonna be in this business, it was a gift from God. And that I was going to be of service in some capacity. And then in my mind, even if it was based on fear of maybe like the wrath of God, which I don't believe in anymore.
But I was like just tracking him down, and then I finally got to read the script, and the script was a thriller. So that was a little confusing to me because he's like such a funny director.
Yeah.
And so I said, what is this? Because the script is definitely like a twisting, turning, intense thriller. Is it a comedy or a thriller? And he said, yes. So then every day on set, I was like, is today a comedy or is it a thriller?
It's a good mix
and
of both.
like, it's like really kind of over the top and campy and trashy and fun and like, kind of like my outfit, I guess.
We just tease each other. He was, after I gave birth, he was like, oh my gosh, if I lost you and I, went to the park with our 3 kids, I mean, think of the ladies I can. This is a horrible thing to say. And he's like, I've got a long list. And I was like, oh really? Because I just have one on my list. I didn't have anyone on my list.
And then it wasn't funny anymore.
No, it's so much more of a burn. He's like, wait, who? And I was like, think of someone. Bob Newhart, I don't know.
Happy Friday, happy Valentine's Day for all you lovers out there. I should have worn pink or something, but I did not. I have a major scoop regarding Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Liz Plank. This is very interesting. So in case you're forgetting who she is, Liz Plank was the co-host of the Man Enough podcast alongside Justin Baldoni. And then as soon as Blake Lively filed her complaint, Liz Plank was out, instantly said she quit, a show of support and solidarity with Blake after everything dropped.
Wakanda forever.
And particularly there was this TikToker, Steph with the Deets, who had showed that perhaps the reason that motivated her to get on the side of Blake Lively without actually looking into anything or at least speaking to her co-host and hearing his side of things may have been what we have discovered since, a repeat sort of Ryan Reynolds psychopathic strategy of essentially love bombing people. So Liz Plank was a perfect person for them to go after because first and foremost, if you don't know anything about her, I had never heard her name before this scandal. She's kind of branded herself as like the ultimate feminist. Wonder Woman. So if you're thinking that you're gonna go down this route as Blake Lively did, it would be a perfect person to kind of butter up and say, oh my gosh, you're never gonna believe what I lived through on set, which is actually captured on camera and was really nothing. But the other element of this is when we recognize that Ryan Reynolds, and this is Steph with the Deets again, had put her in this program, this documentary called Welcome to Wrexham. She appeared as an expert to deliver to audiences what the definition of a bromance is. Take a listen.
The definition of the word bromance is just, it's a platonic relationship between two men. There's no female equivalent to the term bromance. The female equivalent is friends.
So, you remember last episode when we were speaking about this, I showed you also Marcos, who's another TikToker who essentially got his video banned because he had received a tip that the Reynolds family was lobbying Jenny Slate to join as a plaintiff. And Jenny Slate was pushing back on that, and he had heard from somebody in the orbit that was true. Well, I similarly heard, and I will say to protect myself, allegedly, that the same was done to Liz Plank. And then they basically asked her to join in as a plaintiff. And what I was told was like Jenny Slate said, hell no.
Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious.
Her and her people have obviously gone through everything, have read the lawsuits, like a fuller picture rather than just Blake's emotions, and they do not want to go anywhere near this with a 10-foot pole.
Candace Owens has never been one to hold her tongue, and her latest expose has everyone in Hollywood on edge, particularly Blake Lively, who's said to be furious about newly surfaced details surrounding a high-profile trial. According to insiders, Candace stumbled upon a collection of documents that point to behind-the-scenes power plays, secret phone calls, and alleged backroom deals that could upend the current narrative. For months now, rumors have circulated about tensions involving Lively, Justin Baldoni, and other key figures, but few expected Candace Owens to march in with ammunition that threatens to unravel whatever fragile alliances remain. A source close to the situation claims that Candace received these materials from a disillusioned production staffer who felt cast aside once all the major decisions began happening off the record. Apparently, the documents are a mix of early script drafts, scheduling notes, and email chains that depict what the staffer calls a whirlwind of conflicting agendas. Candace, upon examining these items, concluded that much of the public storyline is incomplete. She reportedly found discrepancies between Lively's statements and actual production timelines. More strikingly, a handful of these documents reference hush-hush meetings where certain participants discussed controlling the media spin, deciding which cast members would speak publicly and which would remain silent. Candace, in her signature style, wasted no time going on her platform to dissect these revelations. Rather than offer any gentle insinuations, she dove straight into the details, pointing out specific timestamps and direct quotes that seemed to contradict Lively's official stance. Although she hasn't released the documents in full, likely for legal reasons, her commentary has been more than enough to electrify the internet. Overnight, hashtags referencing Candace Owens, Blake Lively, and this mysterious trial soared to the top of social media trends. Fans are torn between those who see Candace as a truth teller, exposing hidden corners of Hollywood, and those who believe she's stirring controversy for her own benefit. As for Blake Lively, reports suggest she's livid behind closed doors. One source claims she found out about Candace's expose only minutes before it went live, prompting a panicked series of calls to her crisis management team. Though Lively has faced controversies before, rarely has she been challenged so directly by someone with Candace's reach and determination. Hollywood watchers suggest that Lively fears these new leaks could validate suspicions that she orchestrated certain decisions to her advantage, even if that means sidelining or overriding collaborators. Worse yet, some think Lively is worried that other unflattering secrets may slip out if Candace keeps digging. Meanwhile, Candace has fielded backlash from Lively's supporters, who accuse her of fueling sensationalism. They argue that the documents and quotes Candace cites might be taken out of context, shaped to stoke drama rather than clarify the truth. Candace, unflustered by the criticism, remains steadfast in her belief that the public needs to see the pieces of a puzzle that mainstream outlets have glossed over. She has teased that the most damning evidence is still under wraps, and that if Lively continues denying everything, there may be no choice but to reveal more. The timing of Candace's expose couldn't be worse for Blake. She's already caught up in a highly complicated legal standoff with Justin Baldoni, a dispute that has expanded far beyond the standard arguments over creative rights. What started out as a simple contract disagreement, did Lively have final say on script changes? Or was Baldoni free to shape the narrative as he saw fit? Morphed into a sprawling, headline-grabbing saga involving rumored betrayals, multi-million-dollar allegations, and an ever-swelling cast of supporting players. Blake and Baldoni initially appeared united in presenting a heartfelt adaptation, each praising the other's dedication to authenticity. That veneer cracked when unconfirmed leaks hinted that Lively had made unilateral decisions, including casting shifts and key plot modifications, without Baldoni's input. Baldoni tried to remain diplomatic, telling interviewers he believed they could still reach a balanced agreement. But as tensions built, the cracks gave way to legal action. Baldoni filed a complaint citing broken contractual promises, missed production deadlines, and last-minute demands from Lively's camp that he believed undermined the entire project. In response, Lively's team fired back with allegations of their own. They accused Baldoni of misrepresenting her involvement, painting her as a puppet master behind every twist, when, in fact, she was merely stepping in to ensure the adaptation stayed faithful to the essence of the original source material. Her lawyers suggested Baldoni had grown resentful when her popularity began overshadowing his role, turning what could have been a harmonious partnership into a clash of egos. For a while, fans were left to interpret cryptic social media posts or glean meaning from each star's carefully worded statements, all the while clamoring for the final product they'd once been so excited to see. But then came Candace Owens with her stack of insider documents, a move that took the conflict to a whole new dimension. Her revelations didn't just rehash what fans already suspected. They introduced new angles that implicated not just Lively and Baldoni, but also producers, associates, and potentially even outside investors. Candace claimed certain emails proved that high-level decisions were made in closed-door gatherings, sometimes reversing earlier agreements without telling key players who were in the dark until it was too late. Those revelations might complicate the legal proceedings even further if the court finds them relevant. Lively's attorneys have, in private circles, described Candace's commentary as inflammatory and possibly libelous. They warn that if Candace continues to release materials obtained through questionable means, there may be grounds for a countersuit. Yet, Candace appears unruffled, telling one interviewer that she's well aware of the legal boundaries. She implied that should Lively's team choose to escalate, they'd face a counter-argument that the public deserves transparency, particularly if the adaptation is funded by major studios counting on audience support. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's camp watches from the sidelines, aware that Candace's exposé might inadvertently boost his claims. If anything Candace has revealed aligns with or supports Baldoni's narrative about behind-the-scenes manipulations, it could become potent evidence. However, his lawyers are quick to distance themselves from Candace's methods, reminding people that she's an independent commentator with her own agenda, not an ally or spokesperson for Baldoni. Though he might benefit from her revelations, directly associating with Candace's sensational style could risk a backlash from fans who see her approach as too combative or politically charged. Some Hollywood insiders think that Candace's involvement could actually accelerate a settlement. The more dirty laundry that emerges, the more both Lively and Baldoni might realize the damage to their reputations outweighs whatever they hope to gain from a protracted fight. The last thing a star with mainstream popularity wants is for a negative swirl to overshadow every public appearance, or to see sponsors and studios lose confidence in their ability to helm a major project. As it stands, the film adaptation that once excited readers is now overshadowed by a legal fiasco that threatens to overshadow the story's emotional core. Candace's role in all of this seems fueled by her determination to expose hypocrisy, as she often states. It's typical of her brand to wade into controversies and question public figures she believes are misrepresenting themselves. This time, though, her target is none other than a beloved Hollywood actress known for comedic timing, stunning red carpet appearances, and a generally benign public persona. If Candace's revelations stick, Lively's image could undergo a drastic shift, forcing her to respond in a more direct and personal way than standard Hollywood spin. Some of Lively's loyal fans have even started to turn against Candace, calling for boycotts of her platform. But Candace thrives on the friction, claiming it's proof she's hit a nerve. All eyes are fixed on the next major milestone, the possibility that Candace will reveal more of the sensitive documents. Leaks can be catastrophic in an industry that thrives on controlled PR narratives. If Candace decides to publish them, or even portions of them unfiltered, the lawsuit's playing field could change overnight. Suddenly, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni might have to scramble to address new angles or reframe older statements. If the documents confirm suspicions that Lively took over entire segments of production, or that Baldoni misled her about certain contractual rights, the public narrative could seesaw in real time. Already, various networks are rumored to be vying for interviews with Candace, hoping to secure exclusive statements or glimpses of her evidence. Meanwhile, producers and agents representing both Lively and Baldoni have grown more guarded, as if waiting for the next bombshell to drop. Some theorize that if the documentation is as comprehensive as Candace implies, it might highlight widespread confusion or mismanagement at multiple levels of the adaptation's development. That, in turn, could lead to separate complaints from smaller players, everyone from co-writers to line producers who might have signed NDAs but could now see an opening to step forward. For the moment, the lawsuit between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively continues through the usual legal channels with depositions, discovery motions, and a flurry of statements designed to bolster each side. Lively's attorneys have tried to keep the focus on the contractual elements, claiming she had every right to insist on creative input. Baldoni's attorneys push back, painting her as overstepping to the detriment of an agreed-upon partnership. The conflict remains at a slow boil, with each new skirmish bringing fresh headlines. Yet, the real game changer could be Candace Owens. If she chooses to appear in court as a witness or submits her newly acquired material for official review, the trial's trajectory could veer off course. Judges typically discourage sideshows that overshadow the factual basis of a case, but if Candace has concrete proof of timeline mismatches, double dealings, or contradictory statements, it might become relevant. The big question is whether the court will consider her evidence credible, particularly if it was gained under questionable circumstances or if it was passed along by a disgruntled staffer looking for vengeance. Meanwhile, fans of the source material watch in disbelief as the adaptation they once dreamed of seeing on screen recedes from view. People who fell in love with the story's message lament the possibility that it may never materialize in its intended form. Even if the lawsuit ends in a settlement or a judge's ruling, the strain between Baldoni and Lively, compounded by Candace's meddling, might prove too great to salvage the production. Or, in a stranger twist, the controversy could catapult the project into must-see territory, fueling curiosity and ensuring box office success if it ever does premiere. Sometimes in Hollywood, negative publicity can morph into free marketing, though it's a gamble few would deliberately choose. As for Blake Lively's personal reaction, accounts vary. Some say she's weighed down by stress, worried that the trial's revelations will overshadow the philanthropic and comedic persona she's spent years refining. Others insist she's mounting a fierce counteroffensive, determined to show that her alleged takeover of the project was actually a desperate move to preserve the story's heart amid chaotic revisions. In either case, the new wave of scrutiny sparked by Candace Owens has her reeling, with close friends claiming she's never faced a crisis quite like this. Candace, of course, seems to relish the spotlight, doubling down on her vow to keep investigating. She's teased that if the mainstream media refuses to address the deeper rot in Hollywood, she'll do it herself. Whether she sees Lively as a genuine wrongdoer or just a symbol of an industry too comfortable with behind-the-scenes dealings remains unclear. Either way, Candace appears ready to keep the pressure high, fully aware that each new revelation drives her own influence higher. In the end, the lawsuit might come down to a web of creative clauses, financial obligations, and public perceptions. If Lively and Baldoni can't resolve their differences, a judge will have to weigh who breached what contract, how, and with what consequences. Candace Owens' revelations loom over that entire process like a dark cloud, threatening to pour out more data that neither side wants spilled into the open. The tension is palpable, as though every participant, be it a star, a producer, or a behind-the-scenes staffer, knows the next few months could redefine their entire standing in Hollywood. for the viewers who follow these developments, it's become a captivating drama in its own right, overshadowing any script the adaptation might have delivered. Each side claims moral high ground. Each leak intensifies speculation, and each tweet from Candace hints at another approaching bombshell. The daily question is no longer, when does the movie come out? But rather, will there be a movie at all once these legal battles have finished? Until the court makes a decision or the parties reach a truce, the outcome remains as unpredictable as any Hollywood thriller. Fans hope for some measure of resolution, if only to see the original story remain intact. But if Candace Owens continues unveiling scandalous details, and if Blake Lively truly is as furious as sources suggest, we might witness an escalation that engulfs more reputations along the way. No one knows exactly how or when it will all end, but one thing is certain. Every new day in this saga brings another twist that leaves onlookers simultaneously enthralled and dismayed. In the broader landscape of Hollywood disputes, the Blake Lively-Justin Baldoni lawsuit has been extraordinary enough. With Candace Owens stepping in, it's taken on a life of its own, an intersection of celebrity clash, journalistic probing, and high-stakes legal maneuvering that underscores just how fragile star-powered collaborations can be. If the law doesn't settle the matter soon, public opinion might do it first, influencing everything from casting decisions to box office returns. Until that verdict arrives, or until Candace Owens decides her mission is done, expect the drama to keep intensifying and for Blake Lively to keep looking over her shoulder, wondering which secret Candace will expose next.